Hey, folks, welcome to InTheMoneyStocks.com's live trading action video. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here. Today's date is Monday, March 4th, 2019. Well, what a collapse in the markets today from the highs of the day to the lows of the day. We are snapping back a little bit, running into some resistance. You can see the pivot low here, and the 20 moving average. That is where the markets are stalling at this point. But this drop from the high to the low, folks, I mean, we're talking about a 5-point drop or 50 points on the S&P from the gap up highs to the lows down here. Now, what the heck was the culprit? Because this was a beautiful thing today. I mean, this gave us volatility to make day trades. The swing trades that we shorted in the last couple weeks are starting to pay off. I mean, this is what it's all about here, folks. And the key is you have to look at the reaction. So if you look at last Sunday night, so a week ago, not last night, but last Sunday night, Trump put out a tweet bullishly on the China, trade deal. Well, the markets gapped up, and then we saw a sell-off, and I can show it to you. I mean, this was just classic case in point. So here's last Monday. Markets gap up on Trump's tweet. Institutions sell, okay? You get a lot of this selling going on. I mean, look at this. Look at this sell here from the gap down just on, I think this was on Tuesday or Wednesday. Sell, sell, and then look at Friday. Sell, and then later when the volume lightened up, the markets floated back. So what the heck was going on here? Well, basically, I said this to the chat room. I gave it to our traders here. I said institutions are unloading. How do you know they're unloading? Well, it's pretty simple. Overnight, they push the futures up, and it only takes them, because volume is so thin overnight on the S&P futures, they can push the futures up. Let's say it takes them $5 million collectively between the big institutions to push the market up. And then what ends up happening? When it opens, small buyers jump in and say, oh, this is the market. It's going back to the all-time highs. They buy in, and the institutions hammer it. And they unload like $100 million worth, maybe more, $500 million. Who knows how much they unload into that. And then it happens again and again. You saw it over here. You saw it over here with the dip. You saw it here with the dip. I mean, here. And then today was the utmost. I mean, this is today where you really saw it in megaphone action. Big action here. This wasn't where the institutions. So usually the institutions at lunchtime, they step aside and they let the market float back up. They didn't do that yet today, although they are letting it bounce now. But basically, the institutions have more urgency today, and that's why the fall was bigger. I mean, the volume today is we've done more volume today than any day last week by the close, which is amazing. I mean, that's right there spells everything you need to know. But the key here is, again, understand this. Last night we heard that the Wall Street Journal reported again that China deal is essentially done. It might be signed later in Mar-a-Lago between Trump and Xi. Well, guess what? Institutions, they push it up overnight. They get all the suckers to buy at the open, slam it again. It's a sell the news event because the markets have rallied so much since December 24th that the deal is factored in at this point. So now it's a sell the news. Now the institutions are running for the exits because they want to just hand the hot potato off to the average investor. I mean, this is what's repeated every single time, folks. I can't tell you how many people, even just last night in our No Hype Live, I happened to chuckle, but they were like, oh, this market's going to all-time highs. Oh, I can't believe it. And then it gaps up today and boom, And that just shows you how the small investor, the kind of the piker mentality, got them on one side of the trade, which is exactly where the institutions wanted them to be. And then they, as soon as the institutions get them uber bullish, where they're putting in their own money, they're leveraging themselves with margin, they're, everything, they slam it down. Now, to me, that's not very ethical, but it's the way it works. I mean, you got to know it. And people that don't know it end up losing money. It's just the nature of the beast. But in any case, folks, that's what's going on here. Today's sell-off was more important because it was a bigger move technically. So this is my daily, with all of my day trading levels. Let me flip over to my other chart. What's important about today is you had a full engulfing candle. So if we close here, so notice how Friday's day we moved up. So we went right back into this trend line, which by the way is a 75% fib level. And we sold off. And if we close here or lower, you're going to engulf Friday's up day 100%, which means engulfing means you opened above the highs from Friday and you close below the lows on Friday. That technically is one of the strongest bearish signals you can get when you get an engulfing candle. Now, granted, we still have about, an hour and 40 minutes left in the trading day, so, who knows where all this is, by the end of the day, who knows where we are. But if you get an engulfing pattern, folks, that is huge. Now, the next stage after that engulfing, if we do get that, these moving averages here, you have to watch to see, do they get taken out? Do we close below them on a daily chart? And if that happens, then you're going all the way down here back to 265. So we'll see, but today's action was to the extreme I mean, it almost looked like a flash crash at one point. I mean, we were cutting through support levels intraday that normally this market would snap off of and have huge bounces off of, and it was just cutting it through like a hot knife through butter. So that was pretty amazing stuff. All right. And again, what's interesting about today is the leaders are getting pounded. Like, look at Boeing today. Boeing down $8.50. I mean, this stock has, by the way, this is the most ridiculous move I've ever seen. I mean, almost ever seen, I should say, but for a large cap, pretty much I've ever seen. You know, in late December, in 2 months, essentially, this stock went from 290 to 450. I mean, come on. We're not talking about a mid cap or a small cap here. I mean, this isn't a drug stock who announced a cure for cancer. This is Boeing. And it's interesting that as the deal gets closer to being signed, Boeing is starting to sell off because smart money is unloading. They're selling the news. The stock already factored in the best case scenario. And I want to say this too about the Chinese tariff deal that's likely coming. It's not going to include a lot of the things that most people wanted, like protections against, copyright infringement and stealing technology. The Chinese are not going to do that. They know Trump is against the wall. Trump had his summit in it was in Vietnam with Kim, with North Korea's Kim fall apart. The Cohen testimony was negative. I mean, that's all stuff that essentially Trump is reeling from, and he feels like he needs a win. China is so good about that. In fact, I even speculated that China told Kim, by the way, they're pretty tight. China's always been tight with North Korea. They told Kim to say no to the deal. Why? Because it probably gives them an extra leg to stand on in negotiations, which could be $100 billion or $1 trillion to China in the difference in trade deal. I mean, that's the nuttiness of it. So who knows? But bottom line is, I think Trump's expectations are getting lower and lower because he's had a lot of losses, and it doesn't matter what the president is, by the way. It's not nothing against Trump or anyone else. It's presidents want wins. I mean, you want to look good to your country. I mean, obviously, you're the president. So you want wins. And so what this does is, if China's not budging on certain things and Trump needs a win, it's likely to lower his expectations and what he's asking for. And I think you'll ultimately get a removal of tariffs from both sides. But I'd be somewhat surprised if it goes as far as to give everything that the market wants here. And I think that's why the markets are selling as well. People are starting to realize that, yeah, we're going to get a deal, but it's not going to be as good as what people were hoping for, and probably not as good as the market factored in, thus the market's being down. So in any case, folks, there's my 2 cents on the deal. Again, I am short the markets overall. I believe we're going to head down. I think the markets, again, are overbought. I think the moves on stocks like Boeing are about as ridiculous and insane as can be. I think Boeing corrects down to at least the 395, 390 area, maybe as low as 365 to 370. So we'll see, folks. But bottom line is, we're here at InTheMoneyStocks.com making money. Get your butts over here. Be smart. Take the 7-day free trial. Make a ton of money. Profit for life. Have a great one. Take care.